Hello everyone, welcome back to Gelvin Valley. We just finished last episode cutting and windrowing the grass, so I'm going to escort the windrower down the hill and we're going to head back to the main farm. I just double checked, and it's been so long since I've used the round baler. I'm not even sure why I kept it and didn't try to sell it. Maybe because I wouldn't get much for it. But anyway, actually, you know what? I'm already hooked up here with this, so why don't I just head over to this tractor to pull the mower. But now that we have cut, we have windrowed, I'm going to go fetch the round baler. Like I said, I was kind of half surprised that we still had it. The only one I don't have... There we go. Alright, how do I do this again? Is it control? How did you just happen to come in right at the right moment? Alright, control F. Locate. Okay, let me go to the other dude and try to get him out of the way. There we go. Okay, to the other. Or is it Alt F? Nope. What is it? Follow me. I just had it last time. Follow. Maybe it's a control F. There we go. Alright, yeah, he wants to move ahead. Cool. Alright, we got it. Down over the hill we're gonna go. And head on back to the farm. Then I gotta find where the silly baler is, but I imagine we'll come across it. Anyhow, the goal that I have is to get a little extra grass and turn it into silage bales, and I think I'll sell them. Try to earn a little bit more money. That's something I probably should have tried a long time ago. It's something I kind of discovered over on, I almost said the wrong app. Touringer. That's what it's called. I have a series going on that, and I have made quite a bit of money just renting some fields and cutting them for, and over there they all come with grass, all the fields, and so I just got the grass, turn it into bales, and wrap the bales, and it's made a fair amount of money. So I'm gonna try that here. I don't anticipate I'll earn just buckets of money. I should earn enough to at least turn me positive, but it's really the only means I have of selling silage in here, so I don't know, maybe it's somewhat of a hack, but I need all the help in here I can get. Alright, is he coming? I think he's coming. And it's just the perfect little thing I can do here kind of in the evening to round out the day, if you will, because I've already determined I'm not gonna plant the fields until we have the hailstorm, which I see is predicted. I think it's coming tomorrow. I never know just how many hours in advance it starts showing, the particular symbol for the next batch of weather. Yeah, that other dude is sure taking his time. He must not be able to... Oh, I guess I just don't know. Oh, he's limited. How do I fix that again? I always forget just what which particular key. Shift is a shift. The one I'm talking about is 65, and I always forget just what it is that will make it be 100%. That's a bummer. Is it Control Z? No. Right Control Z. Yeah. Well, it's maybe too much to figure out now. It happens so infrequently. It's a key binding that does it, and I accidentally send it the wrong way. And I always forget, is it Control up arrow, down arrow, right, left? Yeah, I can't remember. Oh well. I'm gonna head on up here and gonna pick up the baler. The trouble is, where did I put this silly thing? Not in that shed, I don't think. No. I think it's in that one. Is it in a side shed? I don't think it's in this one over here. I'll see it over there. Is it over in this one? No. Huh, it's dead ahead. If I only look to the left, then I would have known. Alright, let me turn this other guy off. Control F. Just release him. It's kind of handy. I know some people use the follow me mod quite a bit more than what I do, but to ferry things to and from the field, it's definitely something handy. Alright, gonna drop you, and we'll pick up this. And, you know, I'm reasonably certain, because I adjusted the physics in here, reasonably certain that as I make bales, they will stick to the hill. But it's less certain as to whether they will still stick after I eventually get the wrapper and take care of them that way. Alright, there we go, and up the hill we go. I'll just head out, hanging up left. You know, I could take him to the store, right? This goes farm to store. Yes, or shop to beef, beef to store. Please go. Alright, there we go. Because I don't know. Well, let me get out of here. Oh, that's gonna just turn it off. Let me see. Feeding trough 70,000. Let me. I'm gonna just teleport, I think, up here. Is this about the right area? Hopefully I'm not. Here we go. Alright, so we still are green, and it's like we're still pumping out wool. That's the main thing. You know, I almost think it'll send one other row out, and then maybe it terminates. I don't think it quite comes to the total edge. Or I'm going to be watching it this time and see if it will, but I don't think it will. Boop. I want to hop out to... What? Did he almost get stuck? I dare say he did, so... Anywho, here we go. Let me see, can I figure out just what is causing... Is it one? Control... Okay. No, not that. just trying to remember. There's got to be something causing the those to go down. Control Alt, Control Shift. Yeah, first thing I'm going to turn on an input binding, and I'm not even going to know what I'm doing. This thing is just going slow, so... Oops. Looks like I locked it. Let's get it off of there. I suppose I could head up and check the apples, but... Nope, I'm just going to focus on making these bales. Anyway, last episode, I totally got out of my system, I think, all my complaints on the dishwasher. It is still working, so I will count its installation a success. And here's the thing that's probably going to happen with that, by the way. I told you last time that when we got it a little over a year ago, we opted to not have the... extended warranty. This time we got it, so I'm guessing the thing is gonna last for 5 years, at least to the end of the extended warranty, and then it'll die. That's kind of my prediction, but I hope I'm wrong. I would prefer to never have to install it ever again, but you know, I know stuff breaks. I know stuff needs maintenance. But, yeah, they just don't make things like they used to do. And I suppose, on the one hand, why would they? You know, if you get something once and it never breaks, then you never buy it again. And so that company, you know, never makes money off you again. Maybe their stock price stays stagnant. I don't know. That's why I said last time, I think a lot of us are also part of the problem. You know, not only do we want cheap goods, we all, when we put money into our 401k or our investment portfolio, well, we want the stock value to go up. And I suppose one of the ways they do that is by selling over and over and over to people. So, but I still wonder if we'd all be money ahead if we were able to buy things that are quality and didn't just break after a year or two. Alright, I see the outer windrow up here, almost to the top. And we're going to be getting this in just before the hailstorm. Something I did here recently too that I actually enjoy doing, although it many times seems to happen at an inconvenient. Oops. You know, it helps if you lower it. I can't do things and talk at the same time. This past winter, we had a tree in the pasture next to our home go down, split up fairly high. I would say it kind of fell off maybe 20 feet up. It was an oak tree. And, oops, wrong key. Well, I was quick for the first bale. Oh, no, 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 no. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, uh-oh. I'm wondering, yeah, we're just gonna have to watch this. I'm pretty sure you know what it is. I bet I hauled some bales, so I temporarily had to remove the stick-to-itiveness that I built into the code. So I'm wondering if that's the reason why that little bale decided to move when it's supposed to stay put. Oh dear. You know what? I need my, let's see, control. thought, how do I get, let's see, oh, is it shift 4, oh, 4, 5, 6, there we go. I need my diff lock. There we go. You know, to add drive control mod, it's a real thing. When it says 4-wheel drive, you see all 4 wheels spin, and differential lock does exactly what it says it's gonna do. Alright, now let's see where... See, this is quite a... I need to turn it to the side. See, this is probably what I'd have to do more in real life. So I'm going to be unloading this into a bush here. Well, it isn't budging too far. But, yeah, I may need to step out of here. Because otherwise, we are just going to be having trouble fighting these bales, launching down the hill. It would be kind of funny if when they went down the hill they launched themselves and bounced and all that good stuff. But I think all they do is kind of just meander their way down, and still kind of a pain in the patoodle. And another one. So my save here? That might be. So I'm gonna have to check every single one of these. Alright. That one's good. And I may, because now I'm going to be heading down the hill. Before I release the next one, I think I probably just want to... I think I need to go put in some code. That's what I think I need to do, because I don't think this one is gonna... See, what's it gonna do? Maybe if it's to the side, it'll be okay. But see, I'm gonna have the same problem all over again as up. Alright, we're gonna save this. I'm gonna come right back after I change some code. Alright, we are back, and we'll see if my little code fixes did anything. I think they're kind of working either that, or this is where it would have stopped rolling anyhow. But the proof in the pudding will be down over here, where it is just terrible steep, where nobody in their right mind ought to be bailing, but here we are. Although I will say it isn't as bad as the last time I was up here, where I think I took down over the hill. Yeah, see, this is just not hardly holding the hill. This is so steep. For some reason, I had removed a lot of the code that I had for holding the bales put. And I wonder if I removed it because the last time I did some bale handling, I had to lift them with a front end loader, and I was stymied because they were stuck to the map, so I may have had to pull it out, just so I could haul my bales. Last time, like I say, I kind of think I ventured off down into here, but I kind of think I skirted the top of this. I really just don't remember. But I'm going to be plunking a bale pretty much right here in the steepest, nastiest spot you can imagine. So, 90 more liters. This is going to be a good test, I suppose. And here we go. There it goes. Just want to make sure. Okay, not putting out any errors. Boy, I don't know. In real life, maybe it would stay there. That is, that's precarious. Anyway, I was starting to share. We had a tree go down in the pasture next to our house. It's part of our property. My father and I own it, and I told him we'd take care of it. And we got through the winter, which was some really busy time for me at work, and finally had time, as we got out of that season, my sons and I, to go out there with some chainsaws and a wood splitter and take care of it. My dad has a pretty decent wood splitter, and I got four brothers. We all share it, so first order of business, I had to go pick it up. One of my brothers, and this is always helpful when you have shared equipment in a family. I think it's always helpful that someone is responsible for maintaining it and keeping it. And in this case here, one of my brothers, my middle brother, kind of adopted it. He lives on a place, and now I'll be pointing pretty much downhill. Let me see how this goes. Nice. If it's rolling very, very slowly, which is fine. And I'm really going to be curious to see how these bales wrap. I may, when I wrap them, just haul them to the top of the hill and kind of stash them up here and then pick them up later. That might be what we have to do versus, probably should be what I should do with the baler even now. Make the bale and haul it to the top of the hill before unloading. But anyway, the little, I say little, I'm not sure how big it is. It's a really good splitter. Kind of like I was saying before, unlike my dishwasher, this thing here was quality made, so it's tough steel. And there was a part, I think, the main mast that actually bent, and the company, I believe, stood behind it. They totally replaced the mast, and so it was expensive, but worth it. Kind of like I was starting to say, it's helpful when you share machines, with a whole bunch of other people, which I suppose is a type of socialism, in the family. It is very helpful when someone takes responsibility, and like I say, my middle brother has in this case here, to keep him maintained. His place, he has cut down I don't know how many trees. It's just he bought himself kind of a woodland jungle, and so he and his kids have spent a lot of time in the brush clearing it out and made a ton of firewood. So it makes sense, that he'd have it up there. But any of us can borrow it. Just gonna make it through here. And so that's what I did. Went up there, hauled it home. It's kind of a strange feeling too. That this unit is, I don't know, is it 7 to 8 feet long? So I don't have a ton of trailer experience, hauling trailers behind a vehicle, but enough to know how to back up trailers, in tight corners and not make a total fool of myself. But this thing here is another animal entirely, and I've noticed this before. The shorter the trailer, it seems, the harder it is to back up. And I'm sure there's probably a scientific explanation. Maybe it's physics, I don't know what it is, but this one here, when I hauled it home behind, our family bus, we call it. It's a Suburban. I couldn't even see the thing. In the mirrors, usually you could see when you're towing a trailer. Most of the time you could see what you're towing. Not so with this. It hid entirely in the blind spot. So you still had to hook it up, just like any other trailer, and make sure it had, even safety chains on it. So you just didn't lose it. But there is no way you could ever back it up anywhere, without a special camera setup. And even then, it is so short. I imagine it'd be pretty difficult to, impossible to back up. I think I've told people before, we have a riding lawnmower that we use to cut our grass, and it also has a little trailer, and I have more trouble backing that thing up. And this little trailer it's like 4 feet long, 5 feet, but it is tougher for me to back that up somewhere than it is to back up a long pipe trailer or something like that. So it's just kind of interesting. That's how it is. Someone, I'm sure, somewhere has an explanation, or maybe they'll tell me I'm an idiot for not being able to quite master that measure of manhood, backing up trailers and things. But anyway, we hauled it out there, and I took it down in the pasture. We actually had a couple cows in there at the time, and cattle are funny. You don't want to mess. It depends on the bull. There wasn't a bull in the pasture here with us. I'd be a lot more leery if there was a bull in there. It was just a couple steers, I believe. They were there, but they're so curious. When you're there, they'll tend to leave you alone. But the moment you leave, they come over to the wood pile. They come over to see what you are working on, and they leave their calling card. So they start putting down patties everywhere. I guess it's a token of their affection. And for the most part, that isn't that big a deal. We're out there. We know it's dirty. And, I'm not afraid of that. But the thing where it can cause some grief is when they get a little too curious, or they get itchy and they start rubbing up against, your equipment. Or like if you stack the firewood or something, if they rub up against it, they can knock it over. It kind of just be pests, having a couple 1,000-pound pest. Well, I guess these weren't that big. They were just steers, yearlings maybe. So maybe not quite 2 ton apiece, much less. But they could cause problems, So when we left out there, we tried to take special care of the wood splitter, because there is a spot on the wood splitter where there is a single lever, that you use to run the splitter mechanism that's kind of spindly, just hanging out there. So we tried to point that into a place, where they couldn't rub against it or whatever. So, but it is so handy having that. Years ago as a kid, and I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong. I'm just not as young as I used to be. There is a certain art to splitting firewood, and it's incredibly satisfying. You can beat on a hunk of wood, get it to split, and it's amazing sometimes how little it can take to split. Just a little tiny wedge. All it takes most of the time to get in there and push 2 hunks of wood apart. And indeed, the splitting mechanism on there, it's probably, it comes to a blunt point, granted. It's maybe an inch wide, ish. So this is the instrument. It's a big old piece of steel that just pushes down with hydraulic force. That's splitting the pieces of wood apart. So it's amazing how little it takes, when you have enough force behind even a small thing to split. There's all sorts of life analogies, that can be made with that. And this was a really, really tough tree. Some trees, if it has straight grain, like fir, many times, sometimes maple can be that way. If it's in the main trunk and straight grained and you have a decent surface, it's not that hard to split. You take a big old splitting maul. The mauls tend to be a little bit larger. I think the one we had was 2 inches across, maybe 2.5. And again, it comes to somewhat a blunt point, and with enough blunt force, beating on it from above, it will split pieces apart. And that's kind of how we did it in the old days, when we didn't have the wood splitter. And that takes a piece out of a guy, when you're wrangling that thing for the better part of a day. It's hard on the body because a lot of those blows you're absorbing in your own bones. So it's yeah, it requires strength and endurance for sure. But like I say, this was an extremely tough tree. And if we would have had to split it all by hand, we'd probably still be out there splitting it. And it's one thing to split something on the main trunk, but oh no, this is going to be interesting. This is very steep, but it's going to still stay there. Good, good, good. It's one thing on the main trunk, but when you also have large branches that are big enough to split themselves, those get tougher and tougher. The branches, for whatever reason, are typically always tougher to split than the main trunk. Maybe just by virtue of how the tree grows, I don't know. I'm sure there's a biological explanation for how the wood fibers form and all that jazz. All I know is it's hard to split those. And this one here, it wasn't a huge tree. It was maybe, I don't know, 2.5 feet at the butt, give or take. So big enough. But yeah, it would have been torturous to split. And there was a spool. I'll just mention this and then we'll close the episode. I just thought it was really cool because of the lesson it taught me. Most of the time, the wood splitter is undefeated. There's just no way, and pretty much all the time. But most of the time, you start with a big old hunk. Like I said, the spool is 2.5 feet wide when you're down at the bottom. So usually you put one side of it over in the splitter and you run the mechanism and it'll split the one side, and you usually will have enough to cut the spool in half. Well, then you take the half spool and you start splitting on it. And most of it goes pretty much like clockwork. Occasionally you'll run the splitter down and it doesn't quite do the job, so you have to turn the spool over or whatever and come at it from another angle, and it will eventually puncture through. But one of my boys and I, we had one of the most recalcitrant spools that I've ever seen in my life. I don't think I've ever seen, not that I've done a ton of wood splitting in my life, but I've done enough. This spool just refused to split, and we attacked it from every angle of the clock. We went around, we turned the thing over, and the thing looked hideous. It had all these splits in it everywhere, but it was still hanging together, by various wood fibers. I just remember looking at that, and I was telling my son later as I reflected on it more. The split analogy is often used, when you talk about a friendship that is broken, that there's churches that have split. I've been through that in my own past, and it hurts. It's just terrible. And you would hope that it's something that would never happen. Well, let's be real, 50% of marriage, as they say, end in divorce. That's another kind of split. And I remember just telling my son later, about reflecting on that hunk of wood. I just told him, I said, be like that hunk of wood in your relationships, where you love the other person so much that no matter what comes in the form of an attack, that you can't be split. Even though you may take damage, just be, even though I call this a recalcitrant piece of wood, be like that hunk of wood in your marriage, in your church, in your business, to hopefully have the kinds of relationships with people that someone outside it, some bad influence, can't so impact you that it tears something apart that is really, really good. So, anyway, I just wanted to pass that along. I'm out of time here now, trying to finish up this baling here on this crazy steep hill. So we'll pick this up again next time, and for now, I am just thankful all of these bales are sticking to the hill. Thanks for stopping by. Y'all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.